Okay, we're just starting the recording. Again, if it has to stop, anybody wants me to stop the recording, just let me know. So this is kind of a Learn AI session. We have this series going weekly, and we cover different topics. 2 weeks ago, we did the first one. Unfortunately, it was so bad and so laggy, not usable at all. So people have been asking for the recording for that first session. I told them, yeah, I'm not sharing that one publicly. It was horrible. You guys could hear me, but and some people were able to follow along. But man, when I watched it, I'm like, you guys got a lot of patience because that reception was pretty bad. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to redo that same session we did the first time, which is basically like a 101 on how to get the most out of Copilot, since most of you, that's what you're using. On the call, I have colleagues Benjamin Dowd and Rahul Kumar, who I've worked with over the years extensively. Last week, Ben took us through the different models and what those different models, kind of are used for. He kind of gave some examples, and we got into, like what is an LLM and some of those kinds of things. Ben, I reviewed the video. That one looked pretty good. So I'm going to probably do a little bit of editing on it, but I've already downloaded it, and I'll share it with you two, Rahul and Ben, before we, post it on YouTube so people can reference it. Okay. So this is going to be, we're not going to, sorry, was that Ben?
Yeah, I said it sounds good.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I just literally had my lunch like 10 minutes ago as well because I've been back to back all day. Okay, so what we're going to do is some of you might have been through this kind of one-on-one with me, but I'm going to do a recap of it, and I'm going to try and get it down to like 10, 15 minutes top, so we can have some time open for Q&A. So Copilot. What is Copilot? Well, that's Microsoft's basically AI or LLM, right? The great thing about Copilot is that it knows a lot about you because it already has access to Active Directory. Word, Excel, PowerPoint, all those things. When you do some customization to Copilot in a work place, it has all this other information, but it can, it has a lot of information about you. For example, if I was working for a client and I was using my Copilot there, I could say, who do I report to? What's the organizational structure of this? I could ask questions like, I'll give you an example. So Deepak, this is one close to your heart. So you know how there was, let's just say, some challenges that we're having on a certain part of an implementation. So what I did is I took the stuff summarized from the emails and chat. I said, comb through all my emails, all of my chats, all of my everything, and distill down to that a 1 to 2 page brief of what it is the problem, what we're trying to solve for, and what is the kind of what are the main areas of scope. So because I've already done some personalization to Copilot, it put together this beautiful little summary that I gave to VP, and he has in his back pocket. So if somebody asks him, hey, what is this thing? What is this problem? It's nicely organized by problem statement. Here's the 5 or 6 areas. Here's why we have to be able to do this. Okay, so that's something where I didn't have to do a lot of work in the drafting because it knows my tone of voice and stuff, which I'll show you how to embed, but it kind of was able to comb through all that information and create that really good summary. Now, of course, I edited it. So remember, whenever you're using these tools, you own the output, right? There's no excuse to just take something as it is and send it out. Ben, Rahul, and I are working on some stuff for another client, and we share a lot of feedback, and we do the manual editing ourselves. But then we incorporate those edits into another round of the AI, and then we can kind of do a final review. Then we can provide it to the client. So that's just the kind of what is Copilot. Now, Copilot in of itself, Andrea, go ahead.
So you said it knows your tone of voice. How does it know it?
I will show you that right now. Okay, so this is Copilot. This is my personal Copilot. Well, I say my work Copilot outside of my clients. So this is not something that you guys would necessarily, you'd see the same thing, but it would be your version. So if I go into my little thing at the bottom left here, and I'll tell you what, if everybody can, open up your Copilot, but do it in a Google Chrome page. So go in and type Microsoft Copilot M365. It should bring you to a page that basically looks like this if you have access to it. When you do that, you can click on the 3 dots here and you go into settings. So when you go to settings, there's these things on the left. One of them is called personalization. Really powerful. So when I go into personalizations, I can go into custom instructions. I can click edit. And you see here, there's this big long text window. Okay. What I've done is I've basically written how I want it to behave, how I want it to think, that kind of stuff. So I'll give an example. Working style. Think like an owl. Slow, observant, analytical. Examine things from multiple perspectives, but be direct, pragmatic, no sugarcoating. Then I've given it some information about me. So this is stuff that, again, if you, so Andrea, if you go into this personalization and you go into here, you can put in basically a prompt about how you want it to operate, things that you want it to know about you. But remember, it already does know some things, like for example, who you report to and whatnot. What I'll do is, just in case you guys want to use it, I will save mine and I will put it in this chat. We have sent out a guide, which again, we can resend if it helps it with anybody. Mel, may you say you don't see that, the 3 dots at the bottom?
Yeah, no, I opened the 3 dots, but you see the personalization is not there, but other tabs are there. General is there, privacy is there, notification is there.
You don't
I
have
don't
the
see data
personalization?
control. I don't see personalization.
Okay, that's something that's weird. Does anybody else
Maybe because it's
who
our
work?
organization
No,
setting.
No, you should.
no, I
You should
can
have it.
see it through
Yeah,
Scotia.
so Chris here works for the same client and he saw it. So there might be something with your setup, Mel. Andrea,
So I'm trying to
Andrea,
follow, but I am not like, I have the new chat, and where do I get the personalization, like the settings?
okay, so down at the bottom here, yeah, you click on the 3 dots, you go to settings.
Okay.
Right, and I'm in the browser version, remember guys, okay?
Yes.
I'm in a web browser.
Okay.
I go to personalization.
Found it. Yeah.
Do you see it,
Found
Andrea?
I do see
Okay.
it. Yeah.
Okay, so May, there must be something with yours.
Maybe
I don't
because
know.
mine is
What
like
I'd
a
recommend is,
frontline
it could be.
setting. Okay.
It could be. I don't know if Frontline would have this ability, but again, it's out to your organization, right? Your organization allows certain people to have certain permissions and do certain things. So personalization. Now, why is this important? Because you can teach it your tone of language. You can teach it how you want it to be brief. You want it to be verbose. Like I put in that owl thing, but later on, what it kept on doing, it kept on saying, well, from an owl's perspective, da 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 da. I was like, no, don't tell me that you're giving me things from an owl's perspective. So I went in and added a line to say, I want you to think like that, but not to actually tell me that, right? Like that you're being like an owl. So these are things that over time, you'll see things called prompt engineering. And prompt engineering is just that text box that I just put in there. And you kind of build up a repertoire of some of these prompts. I'll give you an example. There's another VP in the bank that's working on, he's actually a portfolio, he oversees a portfolio at the same client that most of you work at. And he has a prompt that he put in and he scheduled it to run every day. And basically what it does is it combs through his emails, his chats, it's everything. It says, and basically it returns to him his kind of priorities or anything that he's committed to that he has to follow up with and it might be overdue or coming up. So that's something that you can do in like a scheduled task. And again, we can share this for you, but when it presents it to him in that scheduled task, because he already has some of these custom instructions, it does so in a way that he likes to read things, being brief and to the point and kind of no fuss. Okay, so that's custom instructions. Anybody have questions about that?
Sorry, quick question. Where the scheduling piece you were just talking about, I know who's done it because I know I've had a conversation with him. Where did you go to schedule that?
I think what you've actually run it, Ben, Rahul. I haven't done it in Copilot because I have all my stuff in something else. Do you know? Here, let's try one.
You run that question again? Sorry, I didn't quite hear it.
How do you schedule in Copilot?
Schedule in Copilot.
So probably in the same Outlook, because I see that we have Outlook, in Outlook we have the Copilot as well.
So I'm going to actually ask Copilot how to schedule things in Copilot. By itself, you schedule the prompts. Here you go, to run automatically on a cadence. So the clean way, built into scheduled prompts, where it works. So Copilot chat, yep, Teams, okay. I'd ask it, write and run your prompt once. Get it right first. Hover over the prompt, click to schedule this prompt. Okay, so let's try it. Let's follow this. When in doubt, ask the LLM is kind of what I tend to do. So let's say, tell me what meetings I have coming up in the next
John, I'm just
2 weeks.
gonna jump in there for 2 seconds, John, if I could.
Go ahead.
Yep. In Copilot, basically what I do, because it is connected already to your calendar, it's connected to your Outlook, it's connected to Teams, just schedule it. Just tell it in Copilot as you're typing, schedule a meeting for me at 2:30 with so-and-so. and it will present you an option that says, here's what I found, and you just click one button and it's in your calendar. So just tell it what you were looking for to do.
Well, I think what they were asking for was to be able to schedule the prompt to run on a regular basis. Like, for example, that prompt about an executive summary, right? So we just did an example of it. So I just asked this prompt, where is it here? I asked it, what meetings do I have up? And look, it's just showing these AI meetings, right? These are in my work calendar. Then if I go down here to the three dots and I click on schedule this prompt, it says da 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 da. So this is the prompt exactly as I typed it in, and I can schedule it. I can start it at this time, run it at a certain time every day until it ends. Okay. So what will happen is Copilot will just do that prompt. I go to Copilot, it'll show me the results of that prompt. Does that answer your question?
Okay.
I see a thumb up.
One thing that I
okay,
do,
so I'll take that as yes.
just to share one thing that I do, I have a project that tracks the financial markets. So I just tell Copilot or GPT or whichever LLM I'm using that give me a summary of the financial markets every morning, starting 6 a.m. And I get that summary in my email. So as John was saying, and as Ben, you also said, you can just tell it what you want it to do and then provide how you want it, and it would just schedule that automatically.
Okay. So like ChatGPT, Claude, those other ones, I'm assuming Gemini can do it as well. So that's how you can do it. So either you can tell it, I want you to run this on a weekly basis, or the way to do it is if I've just done a prompt, it's one that I want to keep using, I hit the three dots, I do the schedule this prompt. Okay. So that is personalization, and that is how to schedule a prompt. What's the difference between the work and the web? So work accesses all of the files that you've created or on your OneDrive, your email, your Teams, your everything else, everything in your work ecosystem, right? Because I'm using a Copilot that really is kind of for me and my personal business, it's only accessing a very small thing. But for a lot of you work in a large organization, right? So, you can ask it to, tell me what's going on with this other kind of a project. If you've been shared those files, or if those files have been made public to all employees in your organization, it will have access to it. So it can go and it can get information that you haven't even seen if someone has made that file public. So for give an example, Deepak, let's say you drafted something, okay, and you went to share it and you shared it to all organization, but you never sent it to me. But it's on the topic that I'm looking for. Well, when I go to Copilot and I have work tab and I ask for something, it'll say, oh, well, I found this thing actually that Deepak had authored or that it communicated or whatever, but you hadn't actually seen it, and it'll give me kind of the source and say that it came from Deepak. Okay, so that's the power of kind of the work tab versus the web. The web is where you're searching things externally and you're going into the broader web to do research. But even when you use work, if you're asking for something, it still will go to the web if it kind of can't find information internally. Okay. Here's the other big thing that I strongly recommend you guys do. In Copilot, think of it, I don't know, I would say it's like a shell, okay? It's not really an LLM of itself or an AI of itself. It uses Opus, which is by Claude, and it uses GPT, which is by OpenAI. So it's using these other big LLMs. Okay, so so if you're using ChatGPT and you have this GPT, 5.5 selected, you're typing it into Microsoft, but it's actually OpenAI that's doing the thinking. Okay. If I were to click this one here, Opus, which is Claude, which is the one that I use most of the time because I just find it's really good at deep thinking work. I find it does a really good job with writing summaries, creating PowerPoints, that kind of stuff for me. So I generally use Opus all the time. Okay. Now, if this was yours and you were paying for this, you might not want to do this because it uses more tokens. And so, but if you're using this in an organization and the organization is paying that cost, you want to choose the model that works best for you. I would assume most of you are doing, knowledge work. So I wouldn't choose the quick response very often here, right? I would choose the think deeper, right? Or I would choose the Opus because it'll give you a more tangible result. How often,
Can I take a
just
quick step
curiosity
back,
on this
Jonathan?
call. Yep, go ahead.
just get a quick step back, just for those who maybe don't know what tokens are and how this works for specifically for an LLM. It's the communication that goes back and forth. Every time you type something, it breaks it into tokens. So maybe it's just a couple letters, maybe it's one letter, for example. The more tokens that you're using, that's now how the LLMs are charging for. And it can actually adjust the charges based on the models. Opus 4.8 just came out. Today, it is by far the most expensive right now. As time goes on, that will come down and other models come out and get more popular. So the price per token actually is valid. I just would not be surprised if organizations that today are not charging will soon start to charge, because it will start to hit definitely the pocketbook of the organization as it's using more and more tokens. But until that happens, use whatever you can. And definitely Claude is on this scale much better.
That's a great point. And yeah, so tokens is kind of like a unit of measurement of like almost like of thought, but it's really a unit of measurement of like words, right? And kind of like a grouping, like your calendar might be, 3 tokens or something like that. But the higher models that do a lot more thinking, I would argue are smarter, not to anthropomorphize, but use more tokens. But like if you're summarizing something, you could use a simpler model. Like for example, Claude, Anthropic, which is the company that made Claude, they have one called Haiku. That Haiku model is the one that's actually used, I believe, in Genesis when they're doing a call summary. And it's designed to be fast, right? But it's not going to give you the quality of the result that if you use, say, Opus 4.7 or 4.8. The problem with using 4.7 or 4.8 is it'll take longer. So if I'm on a call and the AI is giving me a call summary, it needs to appear pretty quickly. So if you use one of those other models, it might take 10 seconds, 20 seconds or whatever, and I'm supposed to get on to the next call. So there's trade-offs, right, of using a fast and quick model versus a deep thinking. But again, if you're doing knowledge work where you're doing research, you're writing papers, you're creating PowerPoints, you're doing analytics, analyzing data, my bias is to use the ones that are the higher tokens, because and that, yes, it will cost you more, but a lot of plans, they kind of cap out after like, I don't know, an hour or two, and then you just got to wait to come back, a couple of hours later. For example, a lot of the plans now are, $20 or whatever. I use a max plan because I do a lot of work using AI. I do a lot of first drafts. I do a lot of collaboration. A lot of stuff that Ben, Rahul, and I do involves a lot of that. So I don't want to wait for 2 hours to be able to continue doing my workflow. I want to be able to keep doing it right now. So model selection, important. I would not trust auto. I don't know what your guys' experiences have been, but I've used auto before, and I've found that, for a very simple task like summarize this or whatever, sure. But if I wanted to write like a draft, I wanted to do whatever, I tend to go to some of the others. Okay? That is the quick and dirty of Copilot. You know how to personalize. I strongly recommend everybody personalize. You know how to use kind of work versus web, and you know how to be able to select here. And we also covered how to be able to schedule. So given we still got like another 9 minutes or so, why don't we open it up to questions? And Rahul, Ben, you help me out here if you want to, take some of them. But we've had some questions from the other times. We're not going to get, I think there was somebody had something around ethics. I think we're going to cover that at a later time because that's a pretty long discussion. But just open it up for questions. Somebody wants to hold up their hand, like use the hand gesture thing in Teams, we'll call on you. And okay, Mel.
So that schedule thing, only after I personalize it, then I am able to conduct that
Nope.
schedule, right? Because I
Nope.
just said
You
to
can schedule
schedule a
anytime.
meeting with you, and it didn't do it. It just said, oh, you could go to Outlook, you could click on blah, blah, blah. It was giving me direction, but it wasn't really scheduling it for me.
Well, so there's 2 things. I was showing how to schedule a prompt now. So a prompt is like, I'm asking the Copilot to give me some information or do some research. So I'll give you that, Rahul, right? Rahul said that he wants it to do research on the markets and stocks and stuff every day, every morning. Rather than him take that prompt, paste it into the window and click go, he has it that he's put it in once, and then he just set it to run over and over again. Okay, so
Oh,
I
you're
think you're talking
scheduling the
about booking a
prompt.
meeting.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
I was
cool.
just talking about a prompt. So I'll give there's a maybe I'll share with you guys there's two prompts that, again, that reoccurring one of what do I owe people? What am I behind in? Or what do I have that meetings that I have to get prepared for and get ready for? Those are two prompts that, I can send out to everybody. And again, prompt is just like words, right? Like it's a paragraph or two or whatever. So I'd strongly recommend you guys to, watch some of these things on social media or on LinkedIn or, whatever vehicle you use. Because honestly, that's how I got my prompts. I got ideas from those, and I just kind of eventually cobbled mine together. I think Ellis put a question there. Do one of you guys want to take it, or you? What they said, Google changed their token model. Do you know about it, and what does it mean for end users? So I think it means that they're now charging for more than, I think the free tier has kind of changed a little bit, but Ben, I'm not really sure. Ben Rahul, do you guys know what happened with this?
So we get into a little bit more detail with that is that it also has separated out what you use it for. And so, yes, there is model differentiation depending on how you're using it and what in particular, because we know Gemini goes across various models. Like it goes the text to image to video, etc. And so, and then of course, there's also the API side of it, which is completely separate. But again, that's newer, and the other LLMs will very quickly follow suit as it is, because the costs are going up and up and up, and the usage is just skyrocketing, of course, for all of the LLMs. And that's just basically how they just packaged it out.
Well, and I think when they does things like video and audio, like that's pretty heavy on the token side, right? Because it's processing a lot more. And so I would assume that you would hit your limits, or, they charge you for more tokens or something like that for that kind of work. I haven't done a lot of the video thing, but I don't know.
Yeah, 1000%.
That's right. That's right. And I think, as Ben was saying, different tokens for different usages. I was hearing some of their keynotes, I think a few days back, where they were introducing more changes on Gemini. I think what they mean essentially, to my understanding, is fit for use. So let's say if you're doing a task which doesn't require deep thinking, then you should choose a model that is less token heavy, right? So you should choose the model which is appropriate for the task at hand. That would save tokens, that would save computing capacity, and that would also save money at the end of the day. So my understanding is that that's what they mean when they say that.
And I could give another example, if I could, John. You mentioned earlier just the summarization of a meeting, for example. So, we use tools to give us a transcript of a meeting, and then from that we can generate a summary. Well, the LLM, when you plug that in, just the transcript, and you say, tell me, like, what is this? What are the main points? What are the action items? Who was at the table? What are we talking about? Because it's just working off of a transcript, that is very, very simple AI to be able to, because that's its foundation, that's its knowledge base that it's using. So you can use the most basic AI platform out there to do that and give you solid information. What it's not going to do very well, though, is take it to the next level. So let's say we had the meeting and now we have the transcript and we have the main points of it. The next question you would want to ask is, where do I go from here? What's next? How does this compare to my competition? All of those types of questions. Now you're going to a much different level of thinking, and this is where you'd want to use a stronger, more defined LLM to give you the answers that you're looking for. So again, it really depends on what you're doing. That's when you know which model to use. Speed is really what it comes down to as well.
Speed and
whether you're paying for it. Right?
Yeah.
Like if I work for a company and they pay for it, hey guys, you can use whatever they allow you to use, right? So a lot of the time, if I'm at a company and I'm self-employed, I'm a contractor, time is money. So I typically, when I have access to those and they're giving access to everybody, I tend to be doing knowledge work. So I'll tend to be choosing a thing that's probably a little more token heavy, because it gives me the fastest result, and that I can then edit and turn things around quickly, right? But again, when it's on your dime, you got to be careful about that, because I think one of the things the guys referenced is that APIs, right? So this same thing where I'm putting something into a chat window, you could do the same thing through computer to computer, where you have the computer send it through an API, it gives back a response, but you never see it in this kind of like a text window. You're not copying and pasting things in it. You're using it like through a program, right? And you can burn through a lot of tokens. that way if you kind of set it to kind of keep rolling kind of with the answers. So, but again, a detail. So, question: how many people on this call have already personalized their Copilot, or if you use ChatGPT or Claude in the workplace? I have. Who has? Who else has? Okay, Hervé, Talaj. Alice, you haven't yet? Andrea, you come on, you're teaching them, Andrea. You're aren't you
Not for
aren't you
my personal
programming them?
purposes. Yes, but for the bank, not for my personal purposes.
Oh, but so at the bank, your Copilot you've already done the personalization for, but
Yes.
not outside of the bank, or?
Yeah, not
Okay.
not the one that we just saw in Copilot for me just to manage my calendar or things like that, or the tone of voice. Those type of things I haven't done yet. I did
Okay.
follow the tips that you shared before about the changing it from auto to deep thinker. I do have that.
Okay.
But I up to today, like I've been like for every call that I need to summarize, I've been asking it, or anything that I need to do. Like sometimes it gives me a tone of voice that it's not the way that I speak. So I have
Right.
to tweak every time. So now I will go ahead and put it in the prompt so it knows how I speak.
Yeah, and you can even ask it, Andrea. You can say, like, the prompts, I gave you guys some sample prompts, but if you want us to resend them, we can. You can put in that kind of master prompt, let's call it, I call it, that has a tone of voice and it has things like that. But you can say, take that, paste that into here and say, tell me what you would recommend editing about this given my tone of voice, given
Okay.
my emails. Like, go and research my tone of voice. Tell me what it is. When you have the work tab clicked on, it has access to all your emails, all your teams, every Word document you've written inside the bank. So use the LLM to help you, right? To do some of that heavy lifting and that research is what I'd recommend. Because Andrea, that's how we all do it, and it's faster and it's better. Like, it's kind of like asking the program, how do I work with you, program, right? Like, walk me through step by step how. Hervé, you got your hand up. What's up?
Was just saying that I customized my Copilot.
How do you find
So
it?
that's all. Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen really a significant difference in the way it produces stuff for me, to be honest. But
Okay.
yeah, that's fine. It's there anyway. Maybe it has, but I didn't see the subtlety of it. I don't know. Yeah.
That's fair. And I think, over time, just evolve it, right? Like, if you want it to be more
Well,
succinct.
exactly.
The other thing too
Yes.
that I didn't cover here is memory. So that one other aspect, which I know we're kind of at time, is if it tells you something and you think that's wrong, ask it to correct it and tell it to remember the correction. Like, for example,
Mm.
I could say I don't know, let's say I asked it about all the organizational structure. And it showed me somebody that it thinks reports to me that doesn't report to me, and it's because their boss is no longer here, so they're skip level reporting into me. I can say, remember that this person doesn't report to me, okay? And it will store that memory in Copilot so that next time you won't have to correct it, okay?
That's still in the personalization.
No, that's just anytime. So look, I can tell it,
Anytime. Okay.
so I just, in the prompt, I'll say, remember that Andrea, and forgive the spelling, has not personalized her Copilot, but has for her, I don't know, let's call it ChatGPT, for personal use. Okay. So when I tell it to remember, I had it on auto here. Okay, got it. Captured. Andrea, Copilot, not personal. Da 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 da. If you can turn into a quick talking point. So now I'm going to go back. I'm just going to create a new chat. So new chat, new session. What do you know about Andrea? Hopefully this works. There you go. It says she hasn't personalized Copilot yet. She has personalized her ChatGPT. So all I had to do is say, remember this. And it remembers it. It stores it and keeps like an ongoing memory. And that's pretty powerful too, because if you're doing something and you find that it's getting it wrong, then, tell it, remember to do it right.
Yeah, I was going to say that with the same, John, is just as whatever you get that maybe doesn't quite sound like your voice or isn't exactly what you were looking for, when you correct it, just tell it, keep that. Replace what you just sent with this, and it'll update the memory for you. It gets better over time.
And but you try and be explicit. Ask it, remember this, or commit this to memory. I don't know, something like that, because it needs to know that's what you want to do. Paula, you have your hand up, and then we'll call it.
Yes, one question. I see that we have agents already set up. What is let's say if I'm doing deep thinkings, analysis and everything, it's better for me to use Opus or an agent per se?
That's a good question. Which you guys want to take that? You're more in the, you got more experience. Rahul, do you want to take this one, or Ben? Or?
Go for it, Rahul.
Yeah. So, Andrea, I think if you're doing deep analysis, you can use Opus. They model or they provide guidance that for deep thinking and analysis work, Opus is best suited. When you use the term agent can be using any model. So agent is like a front end. Think of it as a front end, and behind the scenes, it's connected to some LLM. So I'm not sure which agent you're referring to it and which model it is connected to. But if you're doing deep work, I think Opus is the way to go.
I would add to that, Rahul, is the structure of an agent has an LLM in it as a part of the tool of itself, like something that it does in addition to. So, very, very basic example might be to tell it to do something for you, respond to an email, or like there's a trigger that starts the process, and then there's a human in the loop that says, okay, now yes or no, and then it goes forward and finishes. At one point, one of the tools in there would be an LLM to get information and continue to move forward. So it depends on how the agent itself has been built or what it's doing. But on a day-to-day usage at this particular level, until we get deeper, you're fine with the text space as we're showing here.
Okay,
and
thank you.
Agentic AI. So that's something that's doing multiple steps. It's kind of like what's the difference between that and this, guys?
Yeah. So like agentic AI,
like 10,000 foot. Yeah, 10,000 foot.
Yeah. So you got the two. You have agentic AI, which is like your LLMs themselves that we're now seeing can give you an agent. Okay, so it's performing more functions that includes RAG, which is just retrieval augmented generation, and then so it goes to the internet and pulls some information for you. Presents exactly what you're looking for. Like for example, even if you just want to know the weather, okay, an AI is not going to give you weather. It has to go to the internet to give you that information, and so. Like agentic AI is now, okay, so now I can just text what I'm looking for. It'll go and do all of those pieces for you and give you the answer, okay? So our LLMs today are far more agentic than they used to be, which is great. The difference between that and an agent unto itself is building the agent with a trigger that says, this is when you start this piece and this is when it ends. So you have the process already built out, and you can identify each one of those pieces that go into it. Far more delicate and intricate when it comes to any organization that we work with, because they're the ones that define what are all those pieces. That's your everyday, guys. This is your, you get into the office, this is what you do, ongoing. So what is that process? Well, that process can now be flipped into an agent where an LLM is one of the tools in that agent, but you still, your end-to-end piece is defined, and that's it. Agentic AI, simpler in the usage, but at the same time more complex in all the pieces that it's collaborating with. And does that take it at 10,000 feet? I'm not sure, John.
That's
Pretty
excellent.
Close. Pretty close. Yeah, that's a really good summary, Ben. And so it's like kind of like having a chat bot versus something that, to your point, Ben, will keep going doing things, right? It's not just a point-to-point conversation. It's like, I want you, I'll give you an example. I want you to do all this research, do all this pricing, create this file, create this guide, go and post it to here, and you have give it all the permissions, and it shows all these different steps. That's kind of more agentic rather than just a point-to-point kind of chatbot. Okay, I know we're a little over, but Andrea, do you have a question still?
Well, one comment about that, what you're talking about, it's that yesterday in the event, we were also talking about LLM versus LAM, which is what you're describing. It's more is not the large language model, it's the large action model. So now
Right.
having like different agents specializing in different actions. But
Mhm.
I do have a question like about the other topic that we were discussing before. Like I've been using the Copilot just to write like my requirements documents. But so the steps that I've been following is that I put my ideas of what I need to have captured and how I want to resolve, or what is it that it's my business need. And then I
Yep.
have the Copilot just producing the whole document, and then I go and refine it. So like now I will change the tone of voice so I don't have to refine it that much. I would just review it. But is there anything that I can just decrease the amount of effort from my side on the first step, on the putting the ideas, or if that will always be required?
So structure. I think what you can do is if you give it examples, Andrea, you can give it. So what I often do is I have templates. I'll give you an example. I had to do a master service agreement, a statement of work, and an NDA. Okay. I had templates of those because I've signed NDAs in the past. I've signed master service agreements. I've signed SALs in the past. So I took some of those templates and I put them into this. So I did, this little thing here. I just did plus. I added the files and I said, based on these, I need to create versions for my company to do a certain kind of work. I want it to be, easily read, but I want it to be legally sound. And I give it a whole bunch of things about this is the kind of work for this person in one cell, and this is the kind of work for this person in this cell. And I said, I want you to draft them, and I want you to tell and ask me clarifying questions before you actually draft it. Like do the research and then ask me clarifying questions, and then actually do the writing. So what I would do, Andre, is I would give it some examples. I would change the tone of voice, and I would also kind of instead of taking that document and going live in and edit it, take that document, maybe like look at it and mark it up and keep like notes on what you're making changes to that document. Take those notes and instead of writing those over top of the document, unless it's like, 80, 90% of the way there, place them in and say, I like this about it. I don't like this about it. I want you to change this. I want you to do that, whatever. Make these revisions and review the document for anything else for this kind of an audience or this kind of a purpose that you might suggest. It
So I
will
think that
often come back.
the template
Go
is
ahead.
not the issue. Like the template, it's fine. It's more
Yeah.
that input that I have already discussed with many people, with my stakeholders before I have compiled all the ideas and put it in a document. So that's what
Okay.
the step that I was trying just to save myself if I have already had all those discussions, just to have
The
it like
research.
compiled somewhere else. Yeah.
Yeah.
So have it researched.
So
Yeah,
100%. So that's probably then we should probably go further back, right?
Mhm.
You could say, please research based on this topic to produce this kind of a document for this kind of an outcome, like for this use case. All of my emails, chats,
Okay.
any documents that are available within, my work context, and take maximum thinking time. Like put those kinds of things and choose the Opus model or choose the GPT Think Deep. Get it to do the research first, and then once you have the research and you read it and you go, "Ooh, I like this. I want more." Tell it, "I want more," or "What about this?" or expand on that. When you get the research done, then say, "Okay, now I want you to draft this in a document in this way for me using this kind of a format or template or whatever," right? Like most of the time now, I only actually edit final drafts. I take the research and I read the research and then I tell it to change or to keep researching or follow down something, and then I take the research and I put it into something. I have a command called /brief in my in Claude, so I use Claude a lot outside of work. But Claude is the same thing as that Opus, and I have it do research. Like I'll be driving into a meeting, and I don't know a lot about maybe some certain client that's going to be there or what their interests are, and I'll say research this person, this company relative to this. I'm having a meeting with them in about 2 hours. Get as maximum research, maximum thinking time, and then distill it into a brief. And what it'll often do is it'll do that, and sometimes in the car I'll put it on voice mode, and it'll actually read it out to me and tell me what it is. Does that help, Andrea?
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I
And this-
guess that some information about other people, I cannot have it researched because of privacy within the bank, right? Like if I'm using still Copilot, like could I ask, okay, so if I am getting ready, let's say that I am writing the prompt for the summary of the Copilot, for the Genesis Copilot, I mean, for day-to-day banking, and I want to research the type of calls that they have, like could I get an output from
What-
there, like from the discussions that the LOB leaders have had about that?
If they've made files public, then it will be able to read their files. If they haven't, like public as in, you can choose, and when you're sharing a document, you can choose the top right and say, make this available to everybody in my organization. It will know that. It won't know their emails, their chats, unless they've had them with you, Andrea,
Okay.
and it won't know calls. But if you, let's just say you took a whole bunch of transcripts of calls, like the actual files, you put them in and you said, research these and give me some recommendations of I don't know, how to create a really good call summaries. The challenge is that, from my experience, these things work really well when you give them like a desired outcome, right? Like I want this and I want it to be structured this way. But if you just give it write me a call summary for this, what you'll find is that the Opus will probably give you a much better one than, say, that natural native Genesis, because it's using a simpler haiku model. But you could say, take this transcript, Opus, create a call summary of no more than 3 lines, and then when it gives it to you, if you like it, say, okay, now how would I get haiku model to give me this output? Write me a prompt to get me this output based on this transcript, specifically for the haiku model.
Okay.
And then take that prompt, that it'll give you the prompt, try it, and put it in to the Genesis system that uses haiku and see, does it give you kind of what you were looking for better? Like, ask the LLM to almost like help you, is
okay.
a thought. Rahul?
Thank you.
Yeah, just a quick comment, Andrea, listening to you and John. Sometimes what happens is, and I think somebody wrote it in the chat as well, they have like 10,000 tokens available. 10,000 tokens is not that much tokens. I'll lay that out. So when you're trying to work with the model, it is possible, and I don't know, the organizations can set a token limit. And how the model works is that it builds up the memory. And in building the memory also, it uses tokens, and that is called context tokens. So sometimes the organizations may restrict the amount of context tokens that a model can use. If that is the case, then if you're sending it like extensive instructions, it would only remember part of those instructions, because when that token count runs out, it will not remember anything further than that. So to get around that, what you can do is you can train it, or you can talk to it in chunks. That's called chunking. So what you can do is you can break down your instructions into very specific instructions that it can remember at a time, and then you build on top of that. That is to work around that context window constraint, which I think might be happening how you're describing the symptoms.
Yeah, and I know that we all have limitations on the Copilot, because we have that what has been granted to us as users, but I'm also working with the SIDA team, and I know that they use, like, they have access to other models and like much more capabilities that I do have. But like, it's a great idea that I can have them writing, like have the AI writing the prompt. So because we have been got to the point that we are happy with the prompt that we have, but it's being written manually, and maybe there is an opportunity to even maximize it with the other model to write it for us.
The other piece I was going to recommend there is to make full use of the library that you have in Copilot as well, because that's where you can upload a lot of documents and information that you need, so that it uses that in its memory and as a guide for its output as well.
Which library?
And you see it here on the same screen that John is displaying. You have new chat, search, and library on the left-hand side.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's your library. And again, you can upload documents. You can use that to even create documents. You can put even pictures in it. It has an image option there, so you can load that. So depending on what your way of using this is for you, then that can actually refine a lot better your outputs.
Okay.
Is that almost
Yeah,
like giving it, again,
I
references
know
like
that we are.
templates, Ben? Like it's given like templates or context,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, context, templates, exactly. And even if you, use it and then alter it, it'll update the template as it goes.
Yeah,
And-
I use it all the
Good.
time. I just keep putting in stuff in there, like adding stuff, and it kind of references that. And sometimes, like, if you build your library over a period of time, and if you're asking something that maybe you referenced a couple of months ago or even in the past, it would ask you, do you want me to go and reference that memory or that
Yeah.
file? So yeah, it's handy. And that way it
So that other,
remembers.
so if it's something that you're doing a lot and you want it to reference that thing often, put it here, right? Like for example, I gave the example of MSA SAL and NDA. So once I had I did that first chat round and I kind of, basically created those drafts. When they were the final product that I sent out to people, I took those files and I actually put them into here in this version in Claude, so that whenever I need to do a new MSA and do a new SAR or whatever, it already has a template that I've already approved and I've already used, right? So it'll say, use the one that, for X, but now change it based on ABC, but it already has that kind of stored in memory, right?
So we have some transcripts that we have had masked, so they don't have any PII. So what I could do is just upload them in here and have the AI to create a prompt and give it the samples of the good summaries that I have got.
Yes.
Written manually,
exactly.
so they can
Yes.
they can validate the AI can validate the prompt that I have and see if I have any opportunities for enhancement.
Yeah, so like for example, if you took a transcript called transcript call 1 and you have a call summary that you've approved and is based on that transcript, but you have edited and it's the right one, you put those in, right? That gives it an example of how to take a transcript to what the outcome that you're looking for, right? So that gives it's almost like training information.
Yep.
Right?
Got it.
Okay, I think I know we're well over time, but hopefully everybody found this useful, and we might need to extend it, guys, because I think we get a lot of questions.
Super useful. Yeah, and Jonathan, I know that we are going to schedule one about ethics. What I was looking for it's specifically that, because I have been having a lot of conversations with the privacy team and with security teams, and how do the output, things that I never thought of, like how the output, because it's going to be used by the next agent or by anyone, they have to have that ethics component on how that information is going to be used. So I just want to ensure that I cover all of those things.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think we're not experts in that, right? We can't tell you in your organization how to do it, but I think we were going to take that away. I think next week was going to be Rahul is going to cover some agentic AI stuff, and I think maybe the week after that, Ben, maybe we could get to the, some of that kind of ethics PII stuff and give like an overview of the industry and kind of where things are at right now. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely.
Be careful.
Yeah.
Be careful what you teach us, eh? It's recorded.
Well, we
remember all the disclaimers.
Make sure they're okay.
And also, keeping in mind, that the fraudsters are always 2 steps ahead of us.
Yeah, they are, and this is becoming a big thing. Actually, Rahul has created a bit of like a fraud detection agent that he's gonna show Ben and I first, and then he might use that as his use case when he shows you guys, and that'll be a good example of agentic AI. I think, Rahul, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So again, we'll vary the topics, but yeah, we'll cover the ethics probably in a couple of weeks, because I think Rahul, you're ready to go probably for next week. And just keep the topics. If you want certain topics, if you're looking for a certain prompt, right, or you have a certain question, feel free to send it in just as a reply to this invite. And Ben, Rahul, and I will either schedule one of these sessions to be about that, or if it's quick, we'll send you back a quick reply or maybe some assets that we already have built. Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Awesome.
Right.
Thanks, guys. Everybody have a great weekend. Try and get outside. Enjoy the weather. Bye.
Bye.